Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Morgan Brown, and this is my evaluation on the Code of Ethics in Wildlife Science, written by the wildlife.org. So, I am an environmental science major, so I found a lot of interesting information in this Code of Ethics, kind of that I didn't expect. So, I'm excited to go through this with you as we look into some of the provisions and principles and implications of being in the scientific community. So, this code of ethics is written for professionals, so professionals in the field. The professionals in the field are all policed by each other to make sure that we are upholding these provisions that are set in place to keep our standard of honesty, academic integrity, um, high level of standard for the public so that we can maintain our reputation and our public level of trust. As a scientist, it's completely important to be accurate, non-biased in our informational findings, especially in relation to environmental science, where how does the environmental science impact people, and how do people impact the environment? So it's very important to have this high level of professional standard that, of course, is policed by other participants in the scientific field. So with that, there of course comes when reapplying for licensing, an evaluation of your ability to uphold these codes and provisions goes into whether you can continue to be in the profession or not. So that is, I found that to be interesting. So looking at the entirety of the profession of environmental science, there is that commitment where we are all pledging upon application, renewal, and recertification to uphold this standard. If we don't uphold the standard, we might not be able to continue in this career field. So in our general responsibility was outlined in the code of ethics, which was amazing. So it really gives something to look to in case of ethical dilemma. So the members of the society have a responsibility to contribute to the understanding of human society of a proper relationship with a natural resource. So our bottom line is we are dedicated to determining what our role in what society's role is in when managing environmental science, and how we can better our relationship between the human race and environmental science. So that is the profession's main ideal, and this is what everybody in the profession is striving to achieve through our scientific work and observation. With that, though, the code of ethics gives a level of it gives provisions to help us obtain and uphold this interest, this overview of the scientific community. So when we're talking about these standards of professional conduct, I found three key things that kind of have a main theme. So the wildlife professional must be dedicated to public interest and conservation of wildlife resource and environment. So again, that's which kind of ties into that general provision. That is our main responsibility. And which is funny enough, we don't hold this responsibility to anybody else but the public and the environment. So again, clients that we may be working for, or employers, their interests, if we are being completely ethical, their interests are not our highest interest. Our highest interest is to the protection of wildlife and to the public interest. So we can better outline this by coming with this. So we must refrain from fabrication, falsification, and suppression of results. This is important. This is so important because, for one, if in the spirit of this provision is because truthful use of data will further our progression towards a better world, right? A better world for the environment and a better world for people. So doing this is going to make take our scientific levels to new heights. It's an important ethical thing to follow. Unfortunately, which we'll get into, but people don't always tell the truth. So it's important that this is a part of the ethical guideline to producing great results. So another one is advising against action by a client or employer which violates our statute or regulation. Unfortunately, money talks, right? So when we're being hired by a client, sometimes they want things to be skewed, and we have to remind our client. It's in the code that we remind our client, and we advise against anything that could be a violation of a statute or regulation, because we do not condone that last clause, any falsification of any of our data to do anything, right? We want truth, we want facts, and we want to push our world forward, and we want to keep our public interest in mind by being truthful, honest, and keep the environment in mind by not doing anything or falsifying any information or that would harm the environment in a way that's excessive or something that is unethical, right? So again, our challenge is, as scientists, is that people will want data. People will want data that is skewed towards their goals or what will get them paid. So I even have an example of this. I worked for a company that was testing stacks emissions from plants, like ethanol plants, oil refineries, and this information would be reported to the EPA, right? We were a third party. So what my company would sometimes say is, we're pro-industry. We're pro-industry. And that, to me, was shocking. That, and I'm not going to, that means that they were kind of pushing numbers so that the plant could continue what they were doing within a means, right? A means where we wouldn't get in trouble for the information. But obviously very unethical. And that's the challenge, is that sometimes scientists want to be right about their hypothesis, and they decide to skew their findings just so that they can be right? So that is our biggest challenge. We can be paid off, I guess, if you don't hold an ethical standard. So that's the challenges to the profession. But with this ethical code in place, things can be okay. As long as you obviously have people, we're continuing to police the profession, right? Other professionals police the profession. So this code is a practical code, right? It's a higher level. It's a higher level of ethics. It demands the obtainable level, but it goes beyond that, because the amount of persuasion and being able to be paid off, it's asking us to reach above that, which is over the law as well. But it's practical because it's asking for honesty, which anybody can do, but it's not always easy to do in the face of corruption, essentially. So, but thank God for these principles, right? Otherwise, the world would just be a total mess. Anyway, in conclusion, I'm excited that my allegiance is to the environment and it's to the people. Truth, right? That was great to find that out because of my prior experience. I was just thinking, the world is so full of corporate greed that is what we were expected to do in that job, but really that's not the truth. The truth is that I can hold myself to this ethical standard, and I can watch out as a professional for other people who are not upholding the same standard, and especially when it comes to science. Nothing is more important than truth in science, and people want to be safe. If we're not practicing safe environmental standards, it could be detrimental to the public, not only our reputation, but the health of society as a whole. So I had a great time going through this work. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye bye.